I actually have two setups. You can see I have my studio here, and I also have another pair of turntables downstairs, just scratching daily, kind of getting whatever angst I'm feeling out of my system. But it's been good.
Some
and
people go for a run. Rob slaps out some scratching. That's what I'm talking about.
Abusing that vinyl.
Got you. WOLFPACK, assemble! What's going on? It's TC, and this is TC DnB Talk with Machete. Firstly, if you're new to the WOLFPACK, a very warm welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. And if you find any of the information in this video useful, please smash that like button and send it to your circle of producers. If you're not already part of the community, part of the WOLFPACK, hit that subscribe button to receive notifications every time I upload some fresh new information. Also, don't forget to check out my samples and presets for Serum, Vital, Massive, FMA. Check out my t-shirts and these hats. Follow my Anthems playlist on Spotify. Follow my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Links in the description. In this episode of DnB Talk, I'm going to be talking to one of the true soldiers of the DnB scene in the USA with, I think, one of the longest running club nights in drum and bass, if not the longest running club night in drum and bass. My good friend and the DJ that's going to cut you down with furious dub plates, the one and only Machete. What you say, bruv? Good to have you. You cool? Now that's over. Yeah. We could just chill. It's all good. I think some people get a little bit like, whoa, what's going on? But
yeah, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. I understand it is the morning. These time zones are very interesting for me to it's like 7 p.m. here.
It's late morning for us, but I've been getting up early too. I know, you're a bit of an early bird, but these days without any clubs to go to, I'm in bed pretty early.
Yeah, man. I'm in bed by
I can be honest.
10 p.m. I don't know what's wrong. And then I get up at 6. I'm like an old man. And then I just
my cat usually wakes me up at about 6 a.m. as well.
Them ones.
Scratching and crying. Give me some food.
If you could just talk a little bit about yourself, maybe a little bit about the early history of how you I don't even know how you got into drum and bass. I mean, there's so much I'm going to learn about you, I think. What was one of the first
we've had some chats, but we haven't delved too deep, I guess, in the past. Yeah, I mean, I started going to raves in Los Angeles and around late 1991. I was already catching a bit of a buzz for DJing. I met some people and got into it and started DJing hip hop myself, between 91 and 92.
Okay.
So I was doing that, playing some after hours gigs here and there with friends.
East Coast or West Coast hip hop, or a bit of the both?
Always LA, mainly LA, at least until I started gaining a name and traveling. But started out in Los Angeles and Hollywood and doing nights playing hip hop in the side rooms of some of the kind of ravier after hours. Still going to raves and catching a vibe on the breakbeat techno and stuff, and got really interested in that. My cat's here in the back already destructing.
We knew this would happen. So it's like back in 1991 when it was actually really hard to DJ and you had to play on vinyl and needles.
Strictly vinyl. Carrying crates
skip.
and yeah, I'm doing that. But I was doing that for a while, and even while I was raving, I was all about my hip hop because I grew up. I was a little skateboard kid and just loved hip hop from an early age and funk and stuff like that. So once I was old enough to really kind of, get my own gear and get into it, I just went full on. At the raves and the parties, it was like the break beats and techno stuff that really caught my ear. So I was always following that. And as that kind of evolved into the hardcore break beat and jungle in the early days, that was really started to inspire me more. And that's when I started playing jungle into drum and bass.
So I think in the early days of that stuff, even in the UK, the clubs wouldn't open for drum and bass nights, or not even drum and bass, when it was rave stuff in the early 90s. They had to do their raves in the daytime. I remember Baseline Smith was telling me how he had to do raves day raves because the clubs wouldn't let them do the Friday night, because that was obviously they play commercial music on a Friday night. And I would imagine that you're talking about the techno and the breakbeat side of aspects of things. I imagine that Detroit techno was a thing as well. Did you get exposed to that?
Yeah, it was just kind of a mix of everything back then. People would say techno, but DJs were mixing it up with house and obviously the Detroit influences and things like that. At the time, I didn't really know the difference myself. I was just going out and just really kind of enjoying kind of the newfound freedom of being a teenager into a young adult and just going out and having fun with my friends.
Yeah. So what was like the first time you DJ'd in front of a crowd? Can you remember that? Like the actual sort of, were you nervous when you went on and that kind of stuff?
I mean, I still get nervous.
So do I. Especially with that, what was it, 20 years of respect that I played for you? And
yeah, at least.
You cannot mess up that first mix. 20 years of respect. Like, you're going to have to come out and play like a good set. Otherwise, the whole of LA drum and bass is going to be like, nah, not TC anymore. My man fell off.
Luckily, you never had that problem because you always smashed it.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's like the crowds here, they're definitely really fickle and they do pay attention. So you got to make sure you're on point.
I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I've done talks. I've done like, I think this is the 5th or 6th episode of TC DnB Talks.
Top 5, all right.
Yeah, man. I mean, to be, you're definitely, it's hard to pin some people down, but your night, Respect, has come up in every single conversation, I think.
Wow.
Maybe not the one with Jates because we were just sort of like giggling like idiots, but the ones where I'm actually talking about the real deal stuff, everybody cites it as being like a massive thing. And they say that in the States, there's nowhere really like playing at Respect because of the knowledgeability of the crowds and the amount of, obviously it's been going for so long, but whenever I play, it always seems like you have fresh blood in the thing as well. It's not just like the deep knowledgeable heads. There's always some new people, but
Sure.
yeah, it's definitely come up in every conversation. It must be just such a difficult thing for you in these times. You're in a rhythm of having doing this for like the same as me for 15 years. I've been on the road every single weekend playing a different city, a different town. And I think I'm almost like grieving in a certain sort of sense to that lifestyle. And that the thing I really miss is actually some of these conversations. And this is why I've sort of started this DnB talk thing, because I would just have conversations with people every weekend about drum and bass and loved it. But how are you dealing with, I don't know if you're really grieving, like the loss.
It's definitely been a big change. Yeah. I mean, it's like doing a weekly night for, I mean, now we're going on our 22nd year. But we did hit our 21st anniversary right before the pandemic hit. So, that consistency, and on top of doing other weekend shows and also DJing myself, like, yeah, there's definitely a big gap in my life, obviously, as far as my creative output and just staying busy with the things that I do between booking shows, booking artists, and also running the agency that I started and doing so many things. So it's been tough for sure. But, just really trying to hold it down. We've been doing our online radio show for the last 12 years. So that's definitely been a bit of a savior, and jump back into doing the live streams with video on Twitch and stuff like that has definitely helped keep me sane. And also just, doing other things like trying to level up my skills. I mean, I still have very deep like love for hip hop and like the skills and been scratching a lot, and also trying to pick up some more production, which I hadn't really had time for in a long time. So, just doing different things.
So many things I want to talk about that you just said. I see you're scratching on like your Instagram, and I really like that. And I want to know, what is that like mini record deck that you've got that you do like the cutting on? It's
a portable. It's a Newmark PT01 scratch portable. It was one of the first on the market that actually offered an actual click fader to scratch with. A lot of before that, they had portables, of course, where you could take into a record store and just listen to 7-inch vinyl, 12-inch, whatever. But yeah, I discovered there was a whole scene for this like a couple years ago. One of my good friends, DJ Prolifix, who's actually a 3-time, he just won his 3rd DMC Scratch Championship.
Boom.
And so big up to him. And he's an old school jungle head. He was part of On Point crew, but he kind of introduced me to a guy who, puts together these portables. And then I just discovered this whole scene. And it's nice. It's super lightweight. I could take it anywhere. I could literally go to a park and just, have some fun scratching and make some cool little clips. But yeah, that's been fun.
I've seen you like in like the outdoors doing it. I remember, talking of like portable DJ setups, I remember I was on tour with Aphrodite in Russia one time. I think it was Moscow, and he had like this little bus that you would place onto the record, and it would drive around the groove and like play the record. Totally.
I remember seeing those too.
It's gonna ruin your records.
Vestax had one called Handy Tracks, which are a bit of a collector's item now since they're no longer a thing, but Vestax went out of business a while back. But yeah, Newmark is definitely one of the key ones with the PT-01 scratch. There's a few new portable decks that came out recently, but yeah, I've been having fun with mine, so that helps. And yeah, just practice. I actually have two setups. You can see I have my studio here, and I also have another pair of turntables downstairs, a Pioneer DJ S9 mixer that I just acquired recently. So just that, just scratching daily, kind of getting whatever angst I'm feeling out of my system, but it's been good.
Some people go for a run. Rob slaps out some scratching. That's what I'm talking about.
Abusing that vinyl.
Fuck you. So yeah, with the drum and bass nights, I've always felt like a really good drum and bass night is like a 3-course meal. So like you have your opener DJ, and I feel like the opener DJ slot, because I had to do it for a while, because everyone, if you don't just like shoot to drum and bass superstardom, you're going to be playing opening DJ sets for at least 2 or 3 years or Definitely. More, and it's a responsibility that I never took lightly. If I ever had to do like an opening slot, I would prepare the right tunes to like bring people in, and like I would do a liquid set, but like evolving liquid set to bring it up to the next guy, because there's like that real opener where people are literally just walking in. So that's the first course. That's like your amuse bouche, and then you've got like and then there might be a
couple of hors d'oeuvres in between.
A little hors d'oeuvres in between. And then there's like the main course, which is obviously like, there might be a DJ after that. And then there'd be like the main course is obviously like the headliner. And then, if you're not too spoiled at the smaller nights, it usually runs like this. And then there's the guy who kind of closes out. And I feel like that flow of a night is so important. And there's a big responsibility on whoever's booking that night to sort of maybe understand that. I think that comes from that's something that comes from experience. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that kind of.
Totally. I mean, honestly, that is pretty much the formula that I've run with for years. I mean, most nights that I book would be 3 DJs. And, the opener, since it is early, I always try to give them a longer set to play just so they have time to get some people in there. So they usually get the first 90 minutes. We'll have the middle DJ play about an hour, and then the headliner will close out for the last 90 minutes. And thankfully, our scene in LA is strong enough that people will stay to the end. Whereas, in some other cities, other states in America, they might put the headliner on a little bit earlier because maybe by 1 or 1:30 it starts to thin out a bit. But I totally agree. That's basically how I run it, and also how I play, because I love playing opening slot. Like, obviously I'm not going to headline my own night unless we do like a crew night or something like that. But when it's my turn on the resident rotation, I love playing those early sets because I get to play things that I normally wouldn't play.
Exactly.
And just kind of dive in and experiment a bit, and just try to get into it and build it. And it's all about that build. It's a constant evolution through the night.
There's nothing better than to be able to draw that deep selection. I think I've said this so many times already, but I do find myself sort of repeating myself. But I'm so enthusiastic about drum and bass, and so many thoughts going through my head. But the deep selection, I feel like maybe I am falling off a little bit on the deep selection, and I keep thinking to myself, I need to start going through all those promos that are coming through, but it doesn't seem like there's so much impetus because I'm not playing so much. So I think maybe I need to get back in on that. This is just sort of almost like a personal note to myself to work harder. But I feel like I kind of slacked off a bit on my dub plate hunting. I have been making a lot of stuff personally, and I know when I come back to DJing, I'm going to be firing out just pure sets of dub plates. I'm pretty much like on that. But one thing I wanted to talk to you about is the scene in America and the way that the American nights run. It's a lot more like a show, whereas my experience, this is just sort of my personal kind of reflections on the worldwide vibe of it. There's some places, if I go and play in Portugal, you don't start playing till 3 o'clock in the morning. The headliner plays at 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. till 5 a.m. and they have a much later sort of time, the way that they live. They have that siesta kind of culture. And even in London, you still have your opener, you still have like your second kind of opener, and then you would have maybe 3 or 4 headliners doing the 4 hours from 12 till 4. But I guess, is it a licensing laws thing in LA that the nights don't go on till 4? Or is it sort of like, I always find with the things in America, they seem to start a bit earlier and it's a bit more like a concert in a sort of sense?
Yeah. I mean, it has been like that for a while. I mean, back in the day, there were more kind of like underground style and kind of mid-tier raves that would go late. But, you know, obviously most of the scene nowadays is in the clubs or the festivals. And, you know, a lot of even the festival locations, they won't go past 2:00. So, you know, they'll start earlier, like maybe 6 or sometimes 3 in the afternoon and get things going, and they have to end at 2. So yeah, it's definitely an earlier crowd here, just due to the regulations and the clubs, and obviously the alcohol sales stop at 2.
Wow. Okay.
So,
yeah.
you know, but there are some venues that will go past 2 and maybe run it till like 3 or 4. But once they stop selling booze, a lot of the people just scatter.
It's no fun anymore. I think in England, when they changed the licensing laws, there was always like, I think we had a 2 a.m. or a 3 a.m. I think it was 2 a.m. And everyone would just be drinking and drinking and drinking. And then, I mean, then they'd start popping beans or whatever it is that they decide to do. And then you'd get the music selection would change. And actually, I don't know if I can really talk about this stuff. It's kind of a weird thing to talk about, but the extra things that people bring to the raves really does kind of dictate the musical selection. There was a thing when like the whole culture changed in the UK when dubstep came in, because like I feel that the extras that people were enjoying throughout the night was a different thing, whereas, you know, our thing really came from like an ecstatic kind of place, you know what I'm saying? Especially that rave scene in the UK.
Well, funny enough, I mean, when I first discovered raves, I was completely sober. You know, I hadn't even had a drink yet. I didn't even start drinking. I didn't even start drinking till I was 21, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, hit a bit of weed here and there, but that was about it. And when I was going to parties, I mean, just
I was a terrible degenerate weed head from the age of like 16, like really bad. But I never really touched anything else because I saw my mates and they would do it, and I'd be like, "You look like you've lost your soul, bruv." Like when you're bunning weed, it's like a reasoning. It's almost as if you get some Buddha head going on. But when I seen those people and they're on that next thing, I'm like, this is. I've seen some states in my time, bruv, in the front row sometimes. Oh my gosh.
I'm sure we all have. I think, but yeah, you know, I was pretty good at moderating back then. But for the most part, like I said, the first couple of years of just kind of discovering the scene itself and being excited for the music, and just it was so new and fresh. Like I didn't really need any extra boost. You know, I would stay up all night dancing, having fun, completely sober, and still have to go work the next day. You know, this is like, I'm probably like about 16 or 17 by this time. And, you know, my early retail jobs and things like that, I might have had like an hour or two sleep. And later on in life, you know, there was times when I still only got an hour or two sleep, but I had also kind of dove in with some other things, and it made it pretty difficult. But, you know, when you realize that you have a job to do, if you're DJing, you know, you have to try to be a bit more responsible.
This brings me on to an amazing point. I remember there was this DJ, he's called Rob, who's a friend of mine, a friend of a friend DJ, wicked DJ, best record collection I've ever seen, just amazing. And he always said, you can't be a raver if you're a DJ. And it never left my head. It's always in my head. You can have a little dance, you can sort of enjoy the music, but you got to have your head on, because your job is not to be like having the best time ever. Even like as you get more and more experienced, you get sort of like, it becomes like a second nature to be able to do what it is that you're doing. Yeah,
and you figure out your limitations and what you can do and what you can get away
Don't
with.
Try that triple drop, bro. It's not going to work. Although actually with CDJs, I mean, I don't use sync, but I mean, like, they don't drift like vinyl does. When I was on Serato or when I was on like the vinyl stuff, you can watch it and it drifts like by like 0.4 up and down all the time. And I kind of miss it in some ways in a little bit, but this is sacrilege.
Well, I've been actually just using vinyl at home lately. I mean, I still use Serato. So when I do my sets at home, I'm always playing on my techniques using Serato. But when I'm in the clubs, I usually use the CDJs. So it is a bit easier and I'm used to it. But you kind of have to be able to jump between, you know, formats and just do what you do, because, you know, you got to be versatile these days.
Do you use the sticks on the CDJs?
I do use USB.
Yeah.
Although I've messed with Rekordbox a few times, but I kind of do it, like Wild West style, like the way we did with vinyl. You just kind of go in. I just dump a bunch of tunes, stuff that I'm into, stuff that I like, some new stuff, and I just kind of wing it. I rarely prep a set.
I never prep the order. I mean, I prep the order, but like a DJ box. So like, I would never play like that tune, and like have it all planned in like a list.
Programmed.
I'd jump around as if I was flicking through a record box, but I know where all the records are. Like I know, and usually they're going to go in groups of threes of like 3 tunes that are going to work in sort
of like works,
a little section maybe. But like you can't get too in that frame. And like I've caught myself being into this like thing where I'm playing like similar sets all the time, and then I just sort of like you can't do that. And I need sometimes you just need to tell yourself to like jump out and like maybe take the tune that you're ending with, put it at the front of the thing, and just mix up the whole batch and just have a go. But I'm a deep prep kind of guy when it comes to like cue points and all of that stuff, because I just want to be like a little bit superhuman if I can possibly sort of pull that off.
Absolutely. I mean, it does add to the sets for sure. And like I will go through my Serato list and certain tracks that I'm into, and if I find samples that I like or little drum pieces, that I'll do my cue points and I'll play with it a bit. But yeah, that's what makes it fun. But it's that improv, and those mixes that you weren't really planning or expecting to come together that kind of really make the set, I think.
When I come and play at Respect, I play a very different set than I would if I was going to play. I try to like draw the deep selection because I know the crowd are going to appreciate an old Ronnie Size tune.
Absolutely.
Or like something from Caliber just sort of teased in. They know the tune. You know what I mean? It's like that's.
And I feel like you've always done that very well. It's like kind of finding the balance between that heavy sound and then kind of like a little lighter feel, but kind of comes in waves, and that's the approach I have as well.
It's a crowd reading sort of exercise, but not too contrived. You don't want to be like focusing on too much, but it's just that sort of like feeling the energy. Sometimes you're taking it a bit too far to just kind of draw it back. Maybe give them something that they know, just to kind of like, it's all right.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I think a lot comes into the like from the DJ stuff is comfortability. So if I feel like a crowd needs to know that you've got enough tunes that you're going to like just keep slamming good tunes at them, and you're not going to be stood there thinking like, what's next? I have run out of tunes.
And I think that's what our crowd has come to, know about Respect, is they know it's going to be a quality night, quality DJs, quality music. We usually try to book a nice variety and
top quality. I mean, you usually get everyone.
I don't think we would have lasted this long if we didn't.
No, it's good. It is really good. I think I've enjoyed Respect.
But it's rough
nights.
now. It's like on Thursday nights. I don't know what to do with myself. So I'm usually up, you get that, weeks go by, and it's like, you kind of drag on Monday and the week kind of slowly builds. But by the time it gets to Thursday, that's like my Friday night. So, going to the club, setting up, get everything ready. I get to see friends that I haven't seen for a while, or at least since the previous week. But now it's like, what do I do with myself? So it helps. We do our radio show on Wednesday nights, which you've played before. And it was basically a way to promote our night, obviously promote our brand, as well as the artists and the music. And a lot of times, guys like you would come in a day early because you want to hang out in LA and
definitely
catch a vibe and not be like flying in and have to play that night with no sleep.
I'm pretty sure that there's been times where I've just been maybe playing like another event, as in like across the country, and I just took a flight out to LA and I just come in to hang out. I think there was one night with Current Value where I just sort of turned up and was just hanging out, and it was really good. It's really nice to sort of just chill, and I really miss it. I really miss it.
It's going on a year now. It's crazy.
I know, man. I
mean, it took a global pandemic to stop Respect. But trust me, I mean, we're still here and we're waiting. We're ready.
I think you just
when the time is right.
Can't count these years as like, you just count them as if they were years where you were doing Respect, and when the 25th comes along, you just got to count these years as well. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, totally. I feel like you would not have stopped, so it's not really as if it doesn't count.
And we're still staying busy. We're obviously with the live streams and things like that, definitely keeping my sanity.
So like the agency stuff must be really tough as well. Like not being. Not
Well, yeah. I
being
mean, we had
agent.
just started the agency, which obviously, we brought you on. I mean, we've been working
Yeah.
together for years through, from the Circle days, but yeah, it's just 2 years in, and then suddenly, nobody's flying anymore, nobody's traveling, and I feel like it's going to be a slow crawl back to where it was. Just because, now obviously both of our countries are tighter with restrictions, and I feel like visa costs are going to go up. They're going to be vetting much more carefully, and it's probably going to take longer
Do you
to
reckon,
get your visa.
even though Biden won, I think maybe it's going to be a bit more chilled? I remember when Trump came in, and to get that visa was real difficult because it was just like a lot more information needed to be submitted and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Getting it just before New Year's was just such a... it's just like,
I know.
No.
I know. And I mean, I had, you were among a handful of artists that all paid for visas just, for 2 months later to be 2 or 3 months later, and then you got nothing, you can't use them, and
I had
and what are you
plans,
gonna
bro.
do? They're-
I had
they're,
plans to be there like a lot. And I guess that ain't going to happen. But I mean, it is what it is. And I think, it's a 3-year thing. So who knows? Maybe within those 3 years, I'll be able to get back and like squeeze in a tour or something
Hopefully.
like that. Oh,
Hopefully.
man.
Well,
I mean, we'll see.
We'll see how it goes. I'm thinking probably by the end of this year, we'll have a better idea.
This is just sounding like a phone call that I'll be like, Rob, I need to get out there, bro. You've got to sort me out. Hook me up. I need some dates, bro.
Well, when the time comes, we'll be ready.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. So what's it like in LA now? Is it different in any way? Do you think it's, if you, from the England standpoint, we see like people, they just go in Texas. It's like pie.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of people just like dashing.
I mean, I've definitely seen, just obviously through social media, for the most part, people posting about how they're sick of California and wanting to move away. And obviously when our former president was in office, people were just up in arms about everything. It seemed like it just, there'd been a really tense year for everyone. But I am hoping that maybe like things will ease up a bit. But you also have to just kind of be prepared for the worst always. So we're just kind of seeing how things develop.
Yeah. Do you find that the city has changed its mood? I know in England we're all kind of wearing masks and stuff, and I don't really get to see.
Yeah, I mean,
anyone.
obviously that's definitely an obvious observation. Things have changed that way. But I mean, when you're really trying to be safe in this time, and not have too many social interactions that are obviously going to be unsafe. We're not seeing too many friends, although, there was a time when things were easing up, and a few months ago, we started doing these dinner shows because you could still throw an event in LA. Well, not really throw an event per se, but you could have outdoor dining with music. So we were doing these dinner and base shows, and we would still have like local DJs play inside the venue where there'd be nobody else around. And we would, feed the live stream to screens on the outside patio. And we did those for a couple months, and it was kind of building, but it's not the same feeling. And you still have to wear your masks, and it's like going to a restaurant, say like almost like at a birthday party vibe where these are all your friends, but you can't really say hello to all of them. You can't touch them. You can't hug them, or at least, in a safe way. You try to do what you can, but, it was tough. And even doing that, it still felt a bit sketchy during all of this, and we were trying to be as safe as we could. But now obviously things had locked down, and they just opened up again yesterday. I think they allowed outdoor dining again, so we may try to get back into that at least. We have that option with the venue that we were using in Hollywood at Station 1640, and they did have a kitchen so they could serve food. So, it's a blessing to be able to do that. But, it's tough because you want to be safe. There's still a lot of friends that I haven't seen in almost a year now. We still talk and chat, but yeah, obviously different. There's a different vibe now for sure.
I miss the whole being on tour thing a lot. Because a lot of my friends really were just the DJs that I would meet on tour, and all of these conversations that I would have, and it's just bare jokes usually all the time, just cracking up, and like, I really do miss the travel aspect of it, but I also kind of enjoy just chilling at home.
I have to be honest, I feel the same way. I mean, I think my nature, I'm a bit more kind of, reserved, and maybe I can fall into like a hermit just staying at home. Like, I mean, I was working from home for the last 2 years with the agency, so I had almost kind of prepared myself for what was going to happen, because I was used to just being at home, doing what I needed to do, and I'd go out on Thursdays, and maybe if I had an occasional gig or a travel gig, I would do that. But I'm totally fine being, at home with my girl and my cat, and just making music or playing music and just doing me.
You must get a lot of tunes. Being an agent, like your agency, you got quite a lot of people on the roster. Do you get all of the like dub plates? Do you find that the artists are hooking you up? And if not, why not?
Well, you always have. You're one of the few that is still sent like direct, music, like, coming out of the old instant messaging days, when people would just send you stuff. But I mean, being a DJ as long as I have been, doing the club as long as I have been, and obviously I've been an agent since 2011. So all my industry contacts, I mean, I'm on pretty much every promo list there is. So I get
too
flooded.
Much, isn't it?
My inbox is flooded every week. It's a good problem to have. It's great. It's just hard to go through them all and just trying to critique everything and just figure out what I want to play. And you got to do it.
It's almost like a job in itself now. I was thinking, I wish I had set up a separate email for the promos, as opposed to like my main email where I get messages from like you or from like the bank or whatever. I don't get emails from the bank, but that's just but you know what I'm saying? Like that's all coming in the same place, and I get Friday comes along and it's like my inbox 100 email, 100 tunes, and then I don't want to curse too much, but fucking reminders. It's like
the reminders.
I saw your promo come in, and I put it in the promos folder, and I'm going to look at it next week. But I don't need a reminder. I don't quite understand that. But I mean, that's
have you downloaded this yet?
That's DJ problems, really, because most people are going to have to go Beatport and buy those things, and so I kind of have to sort of be thankful in a sense that I'm being sent this music. But there is a lot of music out there. Is it? I don't want to put you on the spot. I hate it when I'm talking to people and it's like an interview. It's not an interview, but if I was talking to you and we were just sort of chilling, I would probably be like, is there anyone on your roster or like anybody in particular that is standing out at the moment production wise that you're like, that just sort of pops
into? The guy TC's pretty good.
He's I heard he's a bit of a cunt, but tunes are all right. But is there anyone that you can think of that?
I mean, to be honest, I've kind of found myself just digging through a lot of new guys lately. I mean, I definitely appreciate the whole spectrum of drum and bass, but I found myself playing, obviously I've always enjoyed the kind of old school aspect, very kind of ragga jungle vibe.
I see some really interesting stuff from Metalheads is coming through. I got a Metalheads promo came through today, and that was I really like that stuff because it's so different to what I normally get sent.
Totally.
So I'm all about that kind of stuff, and you can always tease them in and be like, yeah,
for sure.
There's some good rollers and stuff, and E9's got some good bits as well, I feel. And
absolutely.
And
definitely some new guys coming through, though. I find myself playing stuff that's a bit grimier these days for some reason. Just kind of like, even if, on the production tip, it may not be like the top level production, but it's like just a vibe,
Yeah, definitely. It's really hard like to pick out names unless I sort of...
It is. You put me on the spot.
Well, I am the worst for this. Like, somebody will be like, they'll call out a tune from the past and they'll say the name of it. I'll be like, oh, I don't know if I know that one. But if I hear it, I'll be like, yeah, I know exactly what that tune is. Yeah, totally. Of course, it's that one. But I'm not... I think I might be a bit dyslexic or something, but it's sort of like I do not have that encyclopedic knowledge of the old school that I wish I really had. And it's like I was always a producer. I'm not the music historian that I wish I was. Some people have got these like collections. I'm trying to think. I know Chrissy's big on this. He's got hard drives of just like bare old Dillinger and like old, just everything in there, and all nicely sort of like laid out in years and that kind of stuff. Very organized. I can barely do that with my own tunes. I got every tune that I ever wrote since 2004 on 3 hard drives backed up. So like, and multiple other hard drives, but I do like a triplicate backup. And that's just about as much organization as you're going to get out of me. I did start doing a thing that all the tunes I get, I put into monthly folders now so that I can sort of keep track of at least what's coming in and just sort of like, because it's so many. Like I've got a hard drive which is like of like tunes that have come off old Seratos, and just I try and keep track of it all. But by the time you've listened to like 65 tunes, your brain is just mush unless you're actually sort of trying to put a set together. But even then, like I get these promos sometimes and I just think to myself from some labels, and there's 55 tunes on there and I can get to like the first 10 and I'm like, how am I going to find? I just find myself just skipping to like 1 minute 30. No, 1 minute 30. No, 1 minute 30. And I just feel like they should have just maybe picked the best 3 of the pack. And I don't want to diss no one because every piece of art deserves to be released. But I feel like back in the day, there was a lot more quality control because it costs a lot more money to print vinyls. Yeah. So like, because it's digital now, there's much less risk. There's less skin in the game. If you were going to press 300 vinyls of a tune to sort of like test the waters to see if it was going to work, it was going to cost you quite a lot of money, or it was going to cost the distribution company quite a lot of money. And so they would be really, really careful about what they would put out. And now it's just so much. And production levels have increased. I cannot say that there isn't like an army of new producers making stuff that is so good. And I do not know where they find the time, because it's just I literally work from 6 a.m. till like 9 p.m. and I still, you know, that depth, some of the depth that these kiddies have got. I don't know quite what it is that they're doing. I guess, you know what? I think
just got that young energy.
It's the young energy. It's being sort of excited about a filter, you know, like, whoa, like that actually did something. And also having grown up with the technology, because I was sort of like, I had to use a lot more archaic technologies, like the stuff behind me in that rack, like samplers and that kind of stuff. There was a lot more barrier to entry to the production side of things. And also,
but yeah, there's so many different ways.
Slower thing,
people produce now. It's like different type, you know, different programs that they can use. And these kids, I mean, they're smarter than we ever were. You know, they just keep getting smarter and figuring things out quicker. And
Bitcoin.
Yeah. Oh man.
Did you see that thing with the? I don't know if I'm like a bit of a geek when it comes to finances now and like stock trading and that kind of stuff.
Just this whole thing recently with like, you know, the stock market and Wall Street and the Reddit.
Brilliant. I love it. I think it's great.
I love that too.
It's so much like, you know, they've tried poking the bear in so many different kinds of ways, right? Just to sort of like be subversive. There was like Occupy Wall Street, and then there was like all these different movements to try and obviously drum and bass is counterculture music. It's what it is. It's always been that way. We've always been the bastard child of every musical scene because it's so unacceptable, that tempo. It's not like you're going to go out and get all dolled up and go and like sort of have a nice night with your friends. You're going there to hear some grimy, you know, challenging music, really challenging music. And I love the fact that they've finally worked out that the thing to do to poke the bear properly is to hurt the finances, because that's what the whole world is about, really, at the end of the day anyway. That's what all of this was about. Like, everything has always been about money and, you know, that greed of like people up in them places, bro. Exposed.
Yeah. They expose that, you know, double standard. It's like what's good for them isn't good for us. Like,
it is a bit different. If you know a little bit deeper into it, the apps like Robinhood were like, they're not real trading platforms. So they do have the stocks underneath, but most of the trading is like on a layer above. So they do have to cover the stocks. But the people who cover their trades is the same hedge funds, or the people that bailed out the hedge funds. So that's why they had to cut it all off on those apps, because basically the underwriters of all of that money are the people who are bailing out the hedge fund people. So
it's like a big casino. They have to have a certain amount of cash on hand
exactly
to cover their losses just in case.
Exactly. Isn't it like what's that movie where they rob the casino in Vegas?
Oh, like Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 12 or one of those.
And they're like, they have to keep 112 million to cover the float or something. And
exactly.
it's exactly what it is. And it's, it is gambling. I got kind of into the stock trading thing. And now I just dabble with like 1 or 2 pence. I'm literally like, if I'm £2 up, I'm like, yes, big win. I have no.
It's a win.
And
it is a gamble.
It's really very gambly, and it's just not my kind of like thing. What I really like is having a business and having a business that makes money, and also like a really as ethical as I can be. Like the only thing that's really supported me through these times is doing samples and presets releases and stuff. And I feel like with music, it's bringing people something that they can enjoy. And with the samples and presets, they're really like cheap. I do them like way cheaper, and I make sure that they can actually use those sounds. And it's not, I've said it too many times, but there's a lot of companies out there that would just you buy a pack for like $15.99 or $17.99, and there's like 2 sounds on there, and you just feel like a real bad taste in your mouth, and you just I just cannot be ripping off people to get through this thing. I don't know, like
that's kind of the sad part of my situation here. It's like obviously we've been building our brand for years, and it's had its ups and downs. But I'd like to think that we've been moderately successful for a majority of our run. But these last few years have actually been really good, and it was just getting to a point where we're doing like bigger shows with promoters like Insomniac and. Obviously with the agency and even my DJing, traveling was taking off. So just there was so much going on, and I had all my eggs in one basket, unfortunately. But also thankful and blessed that I've been able to make a living off of drum and bass solely for the last 15 years or so, without having another job. I mean, obviously I did work at another agency until I started my own business, but it just all came crashing down.
It is such a fragile thing, this music thing. And like I had identified maybe 2 or 3 years ago the fragility without knowing that word or understanding, but just like this could all be taken away quite easily. So I just felt like I needed to have a little hedge of something, and I feel so grateful for that, because I know that there's a lot of people who are probably not in that position and are having to not make music now, which is sad, because that means that great music isn't being made. I really hope that things do change. I mean, it's just it's a bit mad, bro. But was I talking to you in like January last year, being like, we're all gonna die, something like that?
No, I mean, I don't think any of us really predicted what was going on. I mean, but you seem to be ahead of the curve a bit, for sure.
Trying to be, bro.
But yeah, it's just when you dedicate so much of your life to something, it's just tough to really see it all fall down like that so quickly. But now, but it's like, I feel like I've always had the ability to adapt. Like even going from being a DJ, I never really had any interest in promoting nights at the time, but like you find kind of new avenues and ways to kind of navigate what's going on in your life and the things that you love, and going from a DJ to a promoter to an agent, and just kind of figuring out ways to stay relevant and also, earn a living, hopefully. But,
you said you were going to be getting into production a little bit as well.
Yeah, I haven't really touched on that in a while, just being so busy, and even just, with the agency, it's like when you're in front of a computer all day and sending emails and doing things, a lot of times it's tough to like, throw in another 4 or 5 hours or more trying to make a track. And it's, I mean, you probably know better than anyone, just to find that inspiration, and being as prolific as you are. But I never got really past that learning curve of producing tracks on my own. But I loved working with my crew and being in the studio with those guys, and obviously people's life priorities change and
I hate
stuff.
being
but
in
now,
the studio
now I
with
have the
people.
time. I can actually focus again on doing some music. I have a a Native Instruments Machine MK3 that I'm trying to work on, and maybe do some sketches and even get back to the stuff that I love. It's like that's kind of like the scratching thing. It's like I've really kind of rediscovered my love for DJing and music and the things that got me into it in the first place. So whether it's drum and bass or maybe some hip hop loops or whatever, I kind of want just need that outlet. So I've been messing around there, and also considering maybe doing a Respect label. I mean, I know I've talked to you a few times about that, but now that I have the time, I think we can really dive in.
You should do it.
Yeah, I think
I'll do
it's
you a
time
tune.
for sure.
I don't care. I'm so like not sort of like what is the thing? I'm not owned by anybody. I love it. I've been in like multiple record deals throughout my time. I've had management. I've had it all, and like I'm so happy to like be able to go next week. I'm gonna put a tune out and just do it. Do you know what I mean? And like be able to tweet it out and make a video for it, put it on my Instagram and put it on my Facebook and promote it in whichever way I can. And it usually sort of maybe catches on or doesn't, but it doesn't really matter. And like I feel so free and blessed that I don't have to fit my release into a release schedule of another label and have somebody say to me, yeah, you're not really like doing it anymore, T. No, you just gotta like, we're not gonna be putting that tune out or something. Like I've heard some things in my time where people been like, do you think you could make tunes a bit more like this other artist, or this other artist is much better than you, and it's just like I could not live with that, bro. Like it just, that whole thing of like being compared to others, it just, from a musical standpoint, whenever anybody sends me a tune, I always give them the most honest feedback. But if they say that it's out, then I just say it's really good because it's artwork. There's no way that I can critique your art and say, and it would totally bum me out if someone had like a really good point about my tune and it was already out and you can't change it. Do you know what I mean? So,
but yeah, like you said, that freedom. It's very liberating, just to be able to have that control and do what you want on your own time. And, we definitely got a lot of time right now. So.
You say that, but I feel like I'm working harder now than I ever did in my whole life just to sort of like maintain, I don't know what it is. I feel like I've kind of had to grow up a lot, and I don't think I was really living in that much of a reality actually, because I was so lucky to sort of like, 1 week I'd be in Los Angeles with you, and then the next week I'd be flying off to Japan, and then the week after that
True.
I'd be in like Bucharest or Estonia or doing like 5 shows in the UK. And now it's just like, no, there's that whole thing's gone, and that's fine. I'm cool with it. I find myself just sort of being very appreciative of waking up in the morning and still being alive. That's the best thing ever. I've got 2 hands and I can do something productive and just make something happen in that day. And I'm getting a lot better because I used to be sort of like a one thing in a day kind of guy. I could just get like maybe 1 email sent. And now I know you're not like that. I know you're a lot more on it than I ever was. But I used to be like, I could make 4 tunes, no issues. I can make music all day long. But now I have to be like, okay, I'm going to do like, the first 2 hours a day is going to be all the correspondence. And then the next 2 hours of the day, I'm going to do a video. And then the next 2 hours of the day, I'm going to do like a chat. You know what I mean? I've never had to do that before. I used to just smoke weed all day and just like make a tune. Which is
now it's like I've also got my fiance working from home. So, we keep each other honest, really,
Yeah, honesty.
And it's like just, being there and having to work around and find ways to stay busy and just, yeah. But yeah, I say we have time, but it's just in a sense that, yeah, now I'm home most of the time because, other than going to the grocery store or going to stores and trying to limit your interactions to be healthy and remain healthy and safe, there's just, more time spent at home figuring out new things to do. But since my other businesses aren't really happening, I'm just trying to find new avenues.
And what a blessing it is to have, I know you've got a cat and a missus, and like, imagine if you were single in these times. It would be rough. Brutal, it'd be rough, man. Like, it
would be rough.
I got my missus, I got my dog, I got my cat, and like, I feel I've never been closer with my missus. We've never.
I feel the same way. It's like, honestly, this pandemic has brought us closer. Whereas most people some people may, they just get sick of each other, and who knows what happens with their relationship. But yeah, it's definitely brought us closer.
I kind of want to go too deep into relationships, but as a DJ, it's really hard to maintain a strong relationship because you're never really at home at the weekends. And there's that sort of FOMO of if I was to take my missus to every single show, and I do take her to a lot of places, like I've taken her to Japan, Australia, New Zealand, America, and it is a bit of a holiday, but there's no way I'm making money on them tours because there's 2 hotels, there's 2 flights, not 2 hotel rooms, but we're not going to be staying in like the places that I might stay in if I was on my own to sort of save a few pounds or whatever. Not that I was ever that guy to really save money, but you know what I mean? So it's one of them things but spending so much time at home now is just such a blessing. It's actually really, really good, really nice. I cannot complain at all. I now have a routine which I never had, and we're getting on. It's cool. It seems
I feel
really
the same
solid.
way. It's actually been good for our relationship, and we were actually engaged, a little over a year ago.
Congratulations.
But we're just taking it day by day and trying not to stress each other out and figure out what the next steps are.
I wish there was a landscape or like a roadmap for where this is going, but currently if I was still burning weed, or if I was like to just let my mind sort of like really think through what was going on, I would go down some real dark pathways, and I've already been down some of them because I've got a cupboard full of long-term food and like water storage, and it seems like
you're one of those end of the world preppers.
I would say there's no point in prepping for the end of the world, but there is, if you think about the nature of, let's say you were caught up in a hurricane in Florida and you were staying in a hotel room on the 30th floor and none of the elevators worked and you couldn't get cash out of the bank. I'm talking about getting through a 2 to 3 to 4 month period of chaos.
Yeah.
This is weird to talk about that we've got to this, but this is what this is about. It's very interesting. But I just feel like, I'd like to not have my missus come to me and say I'm hungry, and for me to be like, there's nothing I can do about that. And that's the only real issue, is like 10 kilos of rice in the cupboard negates all of that risk.
Yeah.
So, I think maybe
those are some of the simpler things you can just, keep in storage. So. That's
this
good.
has turned into one of those weird YouTube podcasts.
You
about
can edit this
prepping.
out if you want.
I may or may not edit it out, but I think that there's something to.
We don't want to get too dismal.
Well, I don't know. It's just reality, I don't know if we can see like a way through it, and what I really want is for it to come back as it was, a couple years ago.
Well, I think when it does finally come back and people, are ready to gather again, and we're allowed to gather in larger numbers, I think people are going to be ready, man. They're going to be in it. They're going to be excited. It's going to be crazy. It's going to come back like gangbusters, just like. Do
you think the kids are going to be into raving then? That's the other thing. Do you think maybe because this generation has skipped that thing, do you think they'll just be like, I gotta go raving? Or do you think it's gonna be like, I'm just gonna play Call of Duty and watch
right? It'll be interesting to see. But I mean, even maybe not Call of Duty. I'm not sure because I'm not as much of a gamer.
I never
played. But I know
games.
we've actually been playing a lot of VR. We got an Oculus, so we've been playing a lot of VR stuff. But there's so much electronic music in these games and apps, and so it's like the kids are exposed to it no matter what they do. And but I was curious about that too. It's like after a year, because you see with the scene kind of always, like you said, there's always new people coming in. So now that we've had a year off, it's like we know the old schoolers are still gonna, come out, or at least, they still appreciate the music. But it's like kind of curious where this next kind of wave is gonna come from.
What are the anthems gonna be?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying? Because you always knew.
It's like, did you hear that on that live stream?
Exactly. Like, just before, it was like, there was a
Remember when Andy C played that one set?
Yeah.
For the whole year?
Like, what? I mean, I think that's quite good. I think it's quite cool. I feel like, I kind of wanted to sort of do the same thing, and I did one mix this year, which was a CGI
which was awesome.
thing.
I really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
And the graphics were sick too.
Those graphics took like 2 days to render on my Macintosh. I wish I had a PC with like a really strong GPU, but I don't have that. So, you know, that whole thing took like a whole week to put together. But I think there's something to be said for maintaining that sort of like not doing it too much now, because when you come back, people won't be so hungry to come and see you.
Right.
But then there are, I mean, Andy's off to New Zealand now, and he's going to do a tour out there. And there's a few people
seems like the place to be.
Yeah, man, I'm so jealous. I think we seem to be having the same conversation with quite a few people. It's just like, because I was talking to Fury and he manages Delta Heavy, doesn't he? And like, they're out there now and stuff. So, it'd be so good to just one rave. You know, I would quite happily just take like a shit rave in Scunthorpe right now. Do you know what I mean? Like with the worst sound system and like really whacked out people in like just some like crazy little town maybe. And like, I don't know, some weird places I played in America. But I'd be quite.
I mean, even doing the dinner and bass thing that we had. You know, it's like we still have the DJ separated from the crowd. So just, you know, and even when you're doing the live streams, it's not the same. You know, you're never getting that feedback that you want.
The hustle and bustle in the DJ booth is what you need. And that kind of energy of like being a little bit unsure about the guy who stood behind you. And is he cool or is he not cool? Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. But yeah, trust me, I'm ready for it too. So we just gotta stay ready and be prepared. But yeah, you know, we're just fingers crossed. Hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about, but I feel like I really appreciate the time that you've taken to like just sort of talk some DnB talk. I don't know if we really went into depth in anything sort of DnB wise. It's mainly like a production audience, but I think they'll appreciate the DJ stuff too. And just sort of, I guess I watch so many things like this for like nuggets of information, and I know that there's been at least quite a few, you know, interesting things that have been covered. I mean, it just is. I think these talks are just what I need as my own therapy to sort of,
for sure,
you know, just to stay slightly sane and to be able to reconnect with people. So, man, I just
absolutely. Well, I do appreciate you bringing me on, and yeah, man, I'm definitely here for you, and we're still doing drum and bass and still have love for the music. So, you know, respect's not done. You know, we're going to be hitting our 22-year anniversary in March. So I'm trying to figure out a situation where I could do some kind of live stream, or, you know, if we can do maybe some minimal type of event by then, maybe. But, you know, we keep tabs and yeah, let people know when the time comes.
Awesome, Rob, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate
Big up, Tom.
it.
Love
nice
you,
one, bro. So if you found anything in this video interesting, please smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can keep up to date with all that's new from me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have any ideas for future videos, I read all your comments. Don't forget to check out my sites in the description below for samples and presets. They really are incredible value for money. A massive big up to all the WOLFPACK, and thank you so much for watching. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.